There's a place I've come to know where the righteous always flow. It's a beacon for my soul. It is called Mormon Talk. Carson has shown me hope, that happiness is mine. Jesus takes my load through the rough and tumble time, and I will raise all the curtains up, unlatch the window to His love. I will bow
Live from
my
Lehi,
head
Utah,
to Thee.
you are watching
Fast and
Mormon
free.
Talk.
Get on my knees and say, I will pray.
Hello, YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Mormon Talk. I'm your host, Carson Owen Kimball, and today I have a very special guest that is going to be joining us, someone I've anticipated having on for quite some time. He's an LDS filmmaker and responsible for some really cool stuff now and also in the future coming up. So please enjoy a discussion that I'm having with him about LDS film, about some of his projects, past and future, and just about the state of LDS film in general. Before we begin, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in and encourage you to like and comment and share and all those good things. And if you enjoy the content that is on this channel, please hit the subscribe button and, of course, enable notifications so that you know when I'm going to be on the air again. So the way this is going to go is I'm going to have my special guest on. We're going to have an in-depth interview covering all those things that I just mentioned. And then in the very end, I am going to open up the phone lines. So anyone who has any questions for our guest will be able to phone in and ask him directly. Please, everyone, just remember that this is a family-friendly channel, and, you know, we do a lot of work trying to maintain that environment, and it's just really important to this channel to keep it that way. So thank you, and please enjoy this episode. Jacob Wykes, welcome to Mormon Talk. I've been super excited to have you for some time. We've been corresponding via Twitter, but now it's finally happening, and it's good to see you.
Hey, thank you. It's an honor to be on here with you. Thank you.
Awesome. So anyway, I just want to kind of start with your background. So let's talk about your education. So where did you go to school, and did you major in film studies or anything like that?
I haven't majored yet. Right now, I just have a certificate in digital cinematography. I went to Full Sail University. Unfortunately, didn't quite finish getting the bachelor's degree, but still planning on going back to get that and then getting a major into it.
Awesome. Well, that's super cool, man. And so if not like in your educational years or anything like that, like what influenced you to pursue film as like a career, or would you consider this like your full-time gig?
I mean, I'm trying to make it my full-time gig,
That's your goal.
but I mean, what got me into film is it's actually kind of weird, I guess, because I mean, even as a kid, I would beg my mom to let me hold the camera for home videos. And then in middle school and high school, took some film classes, and I was just fascinated with being able to take words from a page and transform it into a live action, like to bring it to life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, I mean, ever since then, I've just been fascinated with filmmaking and creating stories that people can actually watch and hopefully connect to.
That's awesome. So like the creative process of like starting from just like a vision and then bringing that to life into something
Here's a
that's
donation
much more
for you to reach your dreams, Carson. Love, Howard Adderley.
Oh, sorry. I just received a donation. That's what that was.
I see.
I forgot that was on. I apologize.
No
Um,
worries.
anyway, so that's awesome, man. So I'm gonna ask you a really open-ended question right now that might be really difficult to answer, but like philosophically speaking, to you, what is film? What does it accomplish as like an art form? What is it?
So to me, film is, I mean, it's literally live art. You know, reading, you can, take your mind on imagination to anywhere that the book is. You can, imagine on your own terms, what they're talking about, what the scene looks like and everything. But film actually gives you a visualization as to, sure, they're walking through a forest, but is it, you know, full of ground cover? Is it cleared out? Are they tall trees? Are they deciduous, evergreen trees? It's a way to actually see what is going on in the story. And to me, I think that's just the best part because you can convey how a story is told even just by visual.
Right. So it's like
Mhm.
in a sense, I mean, some people would argue against this, of course, but it's like the ultimate way of telling a story.
Mhm.
And, people that can tell stories, the storytellers are the most influential, people of all time. And so film, it's not just telling a story, but like you get to see, you get to hear, and you get to hopefully feel what the subjects in that story and the characters in that story are feeling. And if done right, even the atmosphere of the film is something that you can uh, suck an audience into and
Right.
get them to experience in a way that, by themselves within the confines of their own mind, they probably wouldn't be able to do. And I think that like a lot of the criticism, that people would have against what I said is like, oh, well, your imagination is even better because then, there's no limit to what you could imagine. Like if you're reading Harry Potter or
Right.
something versus watching it,
Right.
reading it is so much more powerful. But I don't know. I think that film has more potential than simply just reading. And I know that's controversial, but I'm just going to say it. Um,
Well, I mean, a good example, like, have you seen Sound of Freedom yet?
I have.
So imagine just getting a book that describes everything that happens. I mean, yeah, it'll get you emotional and it still tells the same story, but the way that film was made, you're actually feeling like you're seeing exactly what happened and what these kids had to go through.
Right. In the end,
So,
I mean, it was the craziest experience because there was like so much of the audience was just like processing what they just saw. But then like
mhm.
another portion was just standing up in thunderous applause. The guy
Oh yeah.
behind me was actually kind of like a larger gentleman. He had popcorn that was presumably resting like on his belly, and he got up and started clapping, and an entire extra large bucket of popcorn just dumped all over me. But I
Oh
was
no.
so yeah, it was unexpected, but because I was still just processing the film. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Sound of Freedom, Angel Studios, if I'm correct, the co-founders of Angel Studios are members of the church as well. And so,
I believe so, yeah.
I was going to talk to you at some point in this conversation about the state of LDS film. And a couple, months ago, I was just feeling like, man, I really, I feel like it's just stagnated so much. But I feel like
Mm.
maybe I was jumping the gun when I said that. Maybe a revolution's about to begin. But
Yeah.
anyway, so let's talk about you again. So when I first met you and discussed with you, your footprint in the film industry, you uh, told me about a project that you were involved in that you produced called Porter Rockwell, Gunman and Saint, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
I remember the title, and you sent me to YouTube. And anyone in my audience, please go to the link in my description of this short film that our guest produced, and watch it and you'll be blown away. It's an amazing short film about Porter Rockwell. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
So it all started, I think it was 2021, like the summer of 2021.
Mhm.
I had just tweeted out, I would love to make a true, like 1960s spaghetti Western almost.
Mhm.
And that got, quite a good amount of likes, not to toot my own horn or anything.
Mhm.
But then Alberto Nunez, who is the director of Porter Rockwell, he was like, "Ooh, it should be about Porter Rockwell."
Mhm.
And then from there, it just literally snowballed into all of a sudden we're like the night before filming, wondering, "Holy cow, is this actually happening?" Because we only had 2 days to film it. We only had $4,000 to make it,
Wow.
and I would say uh, the product that we produced with such a tiny budget and such a tiny amount of time is actually quite impressive. I
Mhm.
mean, it doesn't, and this isn't to like stomp on any other short films that we've been seeing, but
Mhm.
it certainly didn't have the film or the feel of, oh, they only took this project, for 2 days and then slapped it all together.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was quite amazing just how quickly things uh, came together. And even just the Zoom meeting we had with Jason Wade, who plays Porter Rockwell. After that meeting, we all kind of stayed on the Zoom to just talk amongst ourselves, and we're like, "Did that actually happen? I mean, did we really just land this guy as our
Carson?
um, our starring role with arguably one of the biggest LDS actors out there now? I mean, he's in a lot of things, but no, I mean, even just thinking about it now, it's still kind of bizarre just how well things came together, how we did it, how quickly we did it, who all we got involved, and everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That reminds me of a lot of different things in my life. I feel like when we're called to do something, things just come together in a way that is just amazing. You know what I mean? By small and simple
Oh, yeah.
things, great things come to pass, as we know. And I just feel like when it's something that we're truly supposed to be doing, the process is just, it's almost like we're carried through it. Did you get that sense when you guys were producing this film? Like, did it feel like, maybe like there was some divine interplay between like your guys' efforts and then what actually, was produced? Like, did it exceed your expectations? Do you attribute any of that to like something beyond just like luck or skill?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you go to any independent filmmaker, say you have 2 days and $4,000 to make something that looks pretty dang professional.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sure, I'm sure a lot of groups could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's 10 minutes long, I have no idea. But I mean, for the limited amount of time and the very limited budget we had, I mean, we kind of almost did the impossible. But I do feel like that we had a lot of help uh, from the divine, I guess you could say.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, I mean, there's just no way we should have been able to do something that we did. And we did it.
That's awesome. I can totally
Yeah.
relate. I can totally relate.
Mhm.
I mean, that's how I felt when I published a book. I was like, did I just write and publish a book? And, I've received countless emails about that book and just like how it's helped so many different people. And it's just like, wow, did I do that? Like, I never thought of myself as being like an author, but here I am. So that's awesome. So we were talking and you mentioned to me a project that you are working on right now that is much different than your Porter Rockwell film.
Yes.
More of a documentary project about the FLDS and the current trials and travails that they're experiencing right now. And when I say FLDS, I don't just mean people that live in Short Creek. I mean the actual mainstream FLDS group has let you into their community which is really rare,
Hmm.
and allowed you to not only film, but to get to know them on a personal level. So go ahead and
Yeah.
introduce that project to us.
So yeah, the project is called The Long Story of Short Creek. Um, uh, I'll just kind of go back. So I joined the LDS church back in 2010, and that was kind of at the height of Warren Jeffs is, on the America's Most Wanted list, and that whole ordeal is happening. So I kind of got, interested, like, well, who are these people? So of course I studied them, watched every video I could, read everything, every news article or book I could about them, and I was definitely on the side of, wow, these people are crazy. They're brainwashed. How could
Mhm.
they even believe this guy's a prophet and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't until I think it was 2020 when I finally found a video on YouTube that finally allowed members of that faith to explain their side as to what the heck's going on.
Right.
Um, and so I was like, wow, this is fascinating. So I just happened to be in Phoenix helping my works Phoenix location in their warehouse. And I realized I'm only 6 hours away from that community. And so I remembered there was a lady who was on the A&E series. I think it's called Breaking the Faith or something like that, where they help these women, escape the community. And this lady was actually helping these people transition from the FLDS life to normal life.
Hmm.
And so I reached out to her. Her name's Christine Marie. She's actually a founder of Voices for Dignity, which is a nonprofit helping these people out greatly. She lives in Short Creek, and so I reached out to her and said, "Hey, can I come up and bring just a little camera and visit and see what the heck's going on?" And so that was my first visit in 2020. Learned about all the evictions going on. These people who are losing their business, they're losing pretty much their whole town. And I was just baffled, like, well, how come I haven't heard this side of the story? Because this seems pretty crazy for, I guess, what is a marginalized religious community who is just being decimated by both Utah and Arizona governments. And I actually felt really bad for these rank and file members of the FLDS faith because they're literally losing everything that they have ever known in their life. So I decided I'm going to tell their side of the story. And I know it wasn't a very popular choice. I've had a lot of backlash, but I've also had a lot of support because when I explain, hey, these people are just trying to live their faith. I'm not making it about Warren Jeffs. I'm not making it about what he did or the fact that they even practice plural marriage. I'm trying to steer clear of that subject. I'm trying to show that these people are literally just trying to follow a belief that they've been following for generations. But the governments of two different states, and now even people who have left that church but are still living in Short Creek, are kind of hindering, not letting them do. It really is a big mess to untangle.
Right.
And that's why I called it The Long Story of Short Creek.
Yeah,
So,
the ongoing story of Short Creek too.
yeah, pretty much.
Carson, you.
But anyway, yeah, that's amazing. And honestly, like when we were talking about this in the past, I was surprised because 99% of the time you broke that. It used to be 100%. But 99% of the time, every film that was about the FLDS was, look at how crazy this group is. Look at how crazy their leader Warren Jeffs is. Look at how nefarious these things that go on are. But that's not the entire story of those people. I had a friend who was she's an ex-member of the FLDS, and I when I was talking to her, she was like, my childhood was amazing. I had like the coolest life ever. I was surrounded by cousins and I was so happy. It wasn't until I was, later in my teenage years that things went awry. And when she left, she didn't leave with like this I belonged to a cult, I hate my past type of thing. It was like, man, if I could go back, so it's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
it's not so black and white. It's not it's
Right.
there's definitely if you withhold your judgment, there's a lot of good in that community that doesn't get talked about. There's a lot of
Hmm.
good elements that have, and I'm not excusing the bad elements that have harmed people, but there are so
Yeah.
many good things that people have overlooked that
The Bluetooth device is ready
oh,
to pair.
sorry, that was another donation that I think that was in a different language.
Oh, no worries.
I apologize. Um, but anyway, as I was saying, like I think it's awesome that you're telling not necessarily the flowery side of the story,
Hmm.
but rather the fact that the people that still follow Warren Jeffs, which is it's a small number compared to what it used to be.
Hmm.
Hold on one
Carson,
second.
you stole my donation. You cannot blank out pen 15, pen 15.
Sorry. These
Nice.
donations I don't understand what that was saying. But anyway,
Yeah.
you're focusing on this group that is not only marginalized by the greater world, but is marginalized by XFLDS as well, and by other people that live in Short Creek. And so it's like almost like the whole world's against them at this point
Yeah.
in a very real way, in a way that I would never understand. So what's it like on a personal level dealing with these remaining FLDS members? What are they? How
Um,
do they treat you? How do they see you? Are you a Gentile? Are you I know they
mhm.
don't have a very positive view of the church that we belong to, but
Right.
how do they see you?
I mean, I think they see me as a friend because yeah, I'm pretty sure just a very, very few number of people have ever actually even attempted to what I'm trying to do. Even though I'm part of the main LDS church and they have their disagreements, I guess you could say, about this, and they definitely blame our church for a number of the raids that happened in that town. And and that's okay. I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong and that you guys are just stupid and brainwashed. And how can you just listen to what this one guy says? And
Right.
but I think they view me as friends. I mean, I definitely view them as friends. I don't try to exploit that because I know the access that I've been given is highly rare or very
Mhm.
rare. I mean, and so so the first part of my documentary was about this little school that they finally were able to reclaim, and they were still doing renovations on it just to get their kids educated.
Mhm.
And before I release it onto YouTube, I would actually send them a copy of a draft to let them watch and get their input of, is there something I should change, something I should add, something that I should tweak a little bit. And from what I got is I'm like the first person to ever do something like that, to let them have a say of how the final project is going to look. Because too many times, either Discovery or ABC or NBC or uh, even like Netflix, they would come in and say, "Oh yeah, we want to tell your story." They'd interview them, and then
Right.
all of a sudden they release it, and it's totally biased against the FLDS.
Right.
And I think me doing just that little part of saying, "Okay, here's a draft. What do you guys think?" really opened up the trust between me and them, even though at the time I still barely knew them. But it let them know that I'm actually trying to help them out.
Right. You're not
Uh,
there to exploit
yeah,
them for how fascinating they are, right?
right, right.
Or how dark some of the underbelly of their religion is or their community. You're there to raise awareness for the marginalization and
Mm-hmm.
I guess, the discrimination that they experience on a day-to-day basis, not just from like you said, the public at large, but also by people who no longer follow Warren Jeffs, who is in prison, who does still to some degree call some shots, who sends out letters and tells people what to do in some form, but nevertheless is not at large. And these people are in many ways just, they're lost, and they have no real home anymore. So like, as I understand it, like even
Yeah.
in Short Creek, the designated area where the followers of Warren Jeffs live is fenced off, and it's rather small,
Um,
or
it's
am
not
I wrong?
necessarily fenced off.
Okay.
I mean, you can definitely tell what houses are those still in the church and what houses are those
Okay.
who have left. A good tell sign is above the front door. It'll have a little sign that says Zion on it.
Mm.
Sometimes you'll see it upside down, and that means that they've left the church. um, but I mean, even just things like their church meeting house is now a community center. It's not a church meeting house anymore. Um, like the dairy they had is gone. The stores that they had, they're all gone. Now, granted, what they call the apostates who still live there, and some of them have actually gotten back the houses that they once grew up in.
Right.
And I mean, I have no quarrel with the
Right.
apostates either, because I've met a number of them, and they're actually really nice people.
Sure.
Because both sides have a lot of merit to their argument. And when you're walking down Main Street, you can almost literally feel the tension between the two groups. But
Right.
and so my goal is to just show that yes, their leadership had issues and things went wrong, and I'm not trying to put lightly what happened or what he's been accused of, but there are still these people who just can't believe, not that they don't, but they can't believe what's going on and what he's been accused of, and all they're trying to do is just live their faith.
Right. Right.
So
Well, that's awesome. So, any idea of when that project will be near completion, or is it just kind of all up in the air?
it's all up in the air now just because of new conflicts going on in the community. Even the school that I did my first portion on is already being taken away from them. So now they have to start over and find another suitable building for education.
Right. Now, how does that work? Why is it being taken away from it? Who's actually taking it away? Is it the government or
So it's the
local
UE,
government?
well, the reformed UEP.
So that's the people that have broken off of the mainstream FLDS.
Kind of. So the UEP, the
Okay.
United Effort Plan, is
Right.
very similar to the United Order of the Pioneer LDS.
Sure.
Was owned by the FLDS Church, but then when Warren Jeffs got arrested, now it was technically owned by no one. So the governments of Arizona and Utah took it over, tried to do stuff with it, but then said, no, we have to give it back to the people. So they gave it back to the apostates, who then figured out, okay, what houses do we actually own through the UEP? What buildings do we own through the UEP? And now they're being very selective of who gets to own what building or what house and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
That's from what my understanding anyway. So,
Gotcha. No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So, well, that's really cool. I just a final thought on that. You are one in a million when it comes to, the level of trust that you've been able to be afforded by those people, because they're used to, I mean, they've been trained, as I know, to kind of be apart from the world, religiously speaking. And traditionally, it would be really rare to even speak to them about what they're going through, outside of just business deals. Like if you work in the same like construction company as them or something like that. And then, you know, even more so, I think that like just the trust that they have with the media is so destroyed just because of the amount of people that have come in there with some pseudo philanthropic front that they're putting up, and then just kind of like I apologize, that was a were they talking about manure? I don't know, that was another donation. We'll just we'll just move on. But that the trust with filmmakers, with media, has been shattered too because of the exploitative, you know, I guess intentions that people commonly have had. And I'm not saying it's black and white. I think there are definitely some people that have had good intentions going in there, but I think that for the most part, those people feel very much like they're just a spectacle. And so it's really wonderful to see someone humanize humans because, I mean, to a lesser degree, as Latter-day Saints, we get, you know, treated poorly by some, not all, but by some people, and that feels bad. I can't even imagine what it feels like to be one of them. But anyway, that's amazing. I'm super looking forward to whatever you come up with in that.
Thank you.
You know, when you wrap up that project, and definitely let me know, and I'll tell my audience about it. So LDS film in general, I've spoken to a lot of people who have kind of complained that, like, you know, back in the day we had all these zany like LDS films like Singles Ward or like Sons of Provo and the, you know, the RM and some classics like Best 2 Years, and that era of filmmaking is over, and there's not really much in the LDS film culture that can compare to those types of films. What's your view on the current state of LDS film?
I mean, I do feel like there's going to be a huge comeback, mostly because we're now at a time where indie films are much easier to make. It can be much cheaper to make too, because we don't have to worry about, you know, reels of film. The editing process is much quicker. You know, I think the whole hiring process is much quicker. I'm not quite sure on that front, but I do think there is going to be, in the next 5 years, maybe a pretty big comeback with, you know, like the LDS comedies like Singles Ward. I mean, and definitely even with more serious LDS films and stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, Out of Liberty was great. Trying to think of other recent ones that have come out. I'm drawing a blank, but
it's okay. I think that
it just seems like
for its that speaks for the state of things, right?
Yeah, it just seems like we get one good LDS film like every 2.5 years. And so my goal is to actually bring back low budget, but, you know, really fun to watch LDS comedies, because with YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, it's much easier to get a broader audience rather than, yeah, it's playing at these 5 theaters. Go make it if you can, you know?
Right.
And
right.
so
Gotcha.
I'm actually somewhat talking with Michael Birkland. He plays Hiram in the Singles Ward. He's trying to get me a meeting with Kurt Hale about doing the Family Ward, which would be kind of the third installment of the Singles Ward.
No way. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this considered a leak, or is this well known?
It could be a leak. I haven't really told many people.
Well, it happened here on Mormon Talk. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yep.
you know, I feel like there's definitely a lot of room for a comeback. There's a vacuum there. I mean, even amongst people who I've spoken to on my show or via email, there's a thirst for, you know, the good old days of LDS films and things like that. I also think there's like a magic in okay, I know it's not necessarily considered a film, but like even just like Saturday's Warrior with
Oh yeah.
the unapologetic, this is what we believe. And I think the unapologetic window into the mind of a Latter-day Saint, like in that film, the entire film is it's about pre-existence. It's about missions. It's about uh, parting with someone when they go on their mission. It's about struggling existentially. It's about struggling with your faith. It's about learning to trust the plan, if you will. And I
Right.
think that a lot of the time what I see not go so well is when people kind of they downplay the I guess the full theological and I guess spirit, LDS spiritual lens. They forego that for something that's a little bit more approachable to a general audience. And what I'd like to see happen in the future is for more films to come out that are just unapologetically like, this is our culture, this is what we believe. Throw popcorn at the screen, if you will. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I making any sense? Is my lament, falling on deaf ears? Like,
I totally get what you're talking about because, I mean, even another filmmaker friend and I, so we both have gone through divorce, and we're actually wondering, would it be a good idea to make, a really serious film showing what divorce is kind of like in the LDS culture? Because in the normal world, yeah, it happens all the time, but no one really talks about what it feels like to go through divorce in the LDS culture or through the church anyway. And so on that front, I'm also thinking, what other kind of, I guess you could say, taboo topics could we tackle while making a film that people would actually want to see?
mm-hmm.
And so I totally get what you're saying, like just being totally unapologetic, showing what it's really like, what we really believe, and things
Right.
like that.
Well, that leads me to mentioning, you're talking about this comeback in LDS film and things like that. And I'd mentioned to you that I had begun writing a screenplay about my book. And I think that, when I was writing it and transposing my book into this screenplay, which I'm an amateur at doing, by the way,
Yeah.
I felt the temptation, like, maybe I should change this part because people wouldn't understand. Or like maybe I should, kind of change this language that I use so that it makes more sense to a general Christian audience or something. But then partway through, I'm like, no, I really crave that honesty and that unique experience of being kind of just unapologetically a believer in this faith that I think a lot of people have made fun of. Like we look at like that musical, or I've never seen it or anything like that, but like there's a musical about the church, the Book of Mormon musical or
Oh,
something.
yes.
That's just zany as can be.
Yep.
But I don't know. As a consumer and as, someone who hopes to one day turn my book, Window to His Love, into either a short film or a feature-length film, I really, really hope for those honest, unapologetic, LDS films that are not trying to just reach a broader audience by downplaying what we believe, but rather by being completely open about not only what we believe, but how we see, how we
Right.
believe. So I think that that's super cool. Thank you for leaking, by the way, the family ward. I'm not going to let that go.
Okay. Great. Now it has to get done.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. So anyway, I'm going to open up the phone lines for a second. I'm going to
Okay.
put the number on the screen. If anyone would like to call in and ask a question to our guest, Feel free, the number's on the screen, but if you can't see it, it's 801-901-3015. That's 801-901-3015. So while we're waiting on that, I was going to ask you, I know I'm all over the place here at this point, but what is your favorite classic film in LDS culture?
Ooh. I mean, I know it's gonna sound like a cop out, but definitely I'd have to say the second singles word or the singles second word or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, the singles word second word or something like that. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and answer this call. We'll follow up on that in a second.
Okay.
Hello, caller. You are on the air with Carson O'Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have any questions, caller? Caller? You're on the air? Okay. Well, they must have gotten cold feet. I know our guest is very good looking, but I promise.
Sorry, I'm taken.
Oh, me too. But regardless, please feel free to call in. But if you call in, be prepared to, ask a question. But anyway, so your favorite is the singles ward, second ward, you said?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think mostly because it deals with the lead female is, I guess, a new convert, but she has to explain to her family why they can't actually attend the wedding inside the temple.
Hello.
Oh, hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson and with Jacob. Do you have a question?
Hello.
Hello, caller. Can you not hear me? Hold
Hello?
on 1 second. I'm either being trolled or I haven't configured my audio.
Oh, I see.
Hello.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Welcome to the show. Do you have a question for our guest?
I have a question about movies that are intended for an adult audience.
No.
Do you have any Mormon movies?
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to hang up on that one.
We're not going to answer that.
You wanted to? Well, I have to decline because we have families that are tuned in right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just hope that we don't get any more callers like that. I try to block these numbers as they come. But anyway, at least you can hear when these calls are coming in. We have another one coming in. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a question, caller?
Hi. Yes. I was just curious to know, like, what's I know that Jake was involved in the Porter Rockwell short film, and I just was curious to know what's the update on that. Like, has it gotten any bigger? Is there any hope of like a longer film release, anything like that?
So we do have a full script, and we've been going over it in the last few months, but we're kind of at a standstill right now. We're just trying to figure out how to pitch the idea to investors and get the ball rolling on that one.
Yeah, cool. So we mentioned a second before this show that film the short film did so well and exceeded expectations that a feature-length film is hopefully coming in the future. So I had mentioned to you, Jacob, if you ever get a Kickstarter going or an Indiegogo or anything like that, kick it my way and I'll post it to my audience. Thank you for that question, caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a question, caller?
Yeah. So, from my memory, like the very first LDS movie that I can remember was a movie called God's Army, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts of, well, has he ever seen God's Army, and what are his thoughts about that movie?
So I have seen it. I've only seen it a couple times, but I mean, in my opinion, it was pretty good. It's been like 10 years since I've seen it, though. Unfortunately, I mean, I didn't hate it, but yeah, I'm sorry, I can't really answer too much about that one.
Thank you for your question, caller.
Yeah.
Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a question for our guest caller?
Yeah, I do. Thanks for taking my call, Carson. Hey, Jacob. So this is what my question is about. I've noticed a lot when I watch, say, like Mormon movies in general. Let's say even like ones about like the church's history, and we talk about like historical figures and events, things of that nature. Obviously most of the stories, probably pretty much all of them, are about things that involve, say, like the church, the restoration, saints moving out west, things of that nature. But I always have found it interesting, like, there's so much more to some of our leaders. Feel like some interesting stories that could be told about them and other aspects of their lives. Easy example I think about, like President McKay played college football. Our current prophet, he was a surgeon in Vietnam, things like that. Has there ever been any considerations to do movies on maybe some like different aspects of their lives, things like that?
I mean, I personally have not really considered that. I mean, it's not a bad idea. It would definitely, I guess you could say, humanize our prophets, because a lot of time we do kind of hold them up on this pedestal like they're this perfect human being that have, they've always been this prophet-like person ever since they was a kid. But no, I think it'd be pretty fun to actually work on a film like that, showing the real lives of these people that we have, called prophets and led this church.
Yeah.
So
great idea, caller. Thank you for that call. Hello and welcome to Mormon Talk. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a question, caller?
Yeah, do you remember that one scene in God's Army where they were taking a big shit?
Okay. Okay. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball. Welcome to Mormon Talk. Do you have any questions, caller?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, caller.
What is your thoughts on the Senate and UFOs?
I don't know. I'm not really following that.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on. Thank you for that question. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a question for our guest?
Yes, I would remember when I was growing up in the church that around the time of seminary, somewhere around that age, there was a movie that came out with LDS actors, and it was about a man who discovered that he could suck himself in the dick.
Okay, guys, please stop stuff like that. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Please ask real questions and yeah.
Hello?
You're on the air.
Sorry about that. Would you guys come to my lemonade?
Okay, this is just come to our lemonade stand. Okay, sorry. Like I told you,
Yeah,
you never know what you're gonna get. But a couple insightful questions there. I wasn't expecting the UFO and Senate hearing one. I haven't been following that either, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
To me, it's like this. Just to follow up on that for fun.
Yeah.
It's like this. Unless there's like real footage that doesn't look like it was filmed from like a 1999 Nokia flip phone. I've kind of been tuning all that stuff out for the longest time. But anyway, sorry, that's just my personal opinion. I just I'm not really interested.
Pretty much. Yep. That's where I stand.
Yeah, understandable. Well, cool. So I'm going to take a couple more calls before we wrap things up. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson O. Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a real question, caller?
Yes, this question is very real. And
Well,
I
an
thought of this
appropriate question?
Oh, yeah, very appropriate. So earlier today, I was mowing my lawn. And while I was clipping my grass, I got real hot and sweaty. So I went over.
Okay, I'm skipping that. I don't like where that was going. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have any questions for us, caller?
Health of the navel, marrow in the bones.
Okay. All right. So one more strike, and I'm just turning this feature off. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a question for our guest?
Kinda. So I called again. I called earlier about the Porter Rockwell question. I was just calling again because I feel like there needs to be a better caller.
Yeah.
I was. It's not so much a question. It's more just just for anybody curious. I'd say I consider that one of my favorite Mormon culture movies is probably Sound of Freedom. I consider that because the guy Tim, if you guys have seen that, the Tim Ballard, the guy is a member.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for bringing that film up. It's definitely made a splash in culture, generally speaking.
Yeah.
What's your reaction? I mean, we've talked about that a little bit. I talked about my experience in the theater. But do you think that film coming out, would you consider that a contribution to the LDS film community, Jacob?
In a way, yeah, because I mean it was produced by Angel Studios.
Right.
It was written and even produced and financially I'm trying to think of the word here. I guess financially supported by members of the church.
Right.
Even Glenn Beck, he played a huge role in getting that film going.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, I would definitely put that under the wing of LDS film.
Awesome. I think it's a good signal that, like you were saying, there's a big comeback in the making, and I think that might be a signal for that. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a question? You might be the last caller of the evening.
Awesome. I just watched an awesome movie called Latter Days. I was wondering if you've seen that. I think it's from like 2006.
Latter Days. Have you heard of that?
That one does not ring a bell. No.
Go ahead and tell us about that.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Okay.
And it's about two missionaries that go to LA.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar. We'll have to watch that one at some point.
You have to watch it. Incredible movie.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a question, caller?
Yes. Why are you an idiot?
Okay.
Well, I know you are, but what am I?
Well, I think my wife would ask that same question sometimes to me, but I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe genetic factors. I have no idea. Okay. We'll just do one more and we'll wrap things up. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Carson Owen Kimball and Jacob Wykes. Do you have a question, caller? You are the last caller for sure of the evening.
Brother Jacob, would you consider making a movie about the second anointing?
Pardon?
About the second anointing?
Would you consider making a video or a short story movie about the second anointing?
What's okay? I don't know what.
Not really.
Okay, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so we'll end on that note. Anyway, awesome. So That's what it's like answering calls on Mormon Talk. So you got your own
Yep.
experience in that. Jacob Wykes,
All right.
on the outset here, anything that you would like to drop, any future projects, Twitter handles, et cetera, et cetera?
I mean, just go follow Porter Rockwell on Twitter. I think it is just Porter Rockwell. Maybe it's Gunman Insane. I don't know. And then, yeah, just go watch the short film and stuff. So
I meant X, because I guess Twitter is no longer Twitter.
no. There are no X's, only tweets.
That's right. I saw you tweet that or X that, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, awesome. So you heard him, everyone. Follow at Porter Rockwell on Twitter. And like I said, check that link in the description to go watch that short film for yourself. Jacob Wykes, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And till we meet again.
I do want to do a shout out.
Okay.
Robert Hill is the one who wrote the short film and the feature length film. He's the one that gets all the credit.
Awesome. Well, cool. Maybe I'll have him on sometime in the future.
Yes,
thank
definitely.
you, Jacob Wykes. All right. Till we meet again.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
There's a place I've come to know.
So that's
where the righteous always flow. It's a beacon for my soul. It is called Mormon Talk.